Hello, I'm Kat, joined by Dave Geo. Welcome to the 82nd episode of Unifying Force. How's it going?
Hey, doing well. Yeah, no, sorry a little bit for the delay. Is we normally have our video scheduled to play automatically, and it didn't today, so I had to manually adjust some things. StreamYard technology, ain't it grand? But we're here.
Yep. So what's
So
going on?
there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, this is the end of the year. We're here with episode 82. Every time we get a higher number, is I'm like, wow, we're on that. And but tons of stuff going on in the media, Star Wars, everything university stuff going this week. And Geo brought it up in the chat, and I'm just going to go there. Freaking Superman trailer. I'll let other people go first because we are going to get to Skeleton Crew. We're going to talk about it, I swear. But I got some things. What did you guys think?
It was like an action-oriented trailer. Soundtrack was good, but there's a lot of noise.
Yeah, I liked the mystery of the teaser to the teaser trailer that was 24 hours until the teaser trailer launches because I don't know, I still think that modern day trailers reveal far too much, or they just don't trust the audiences. They want to show the film's highlights already. So I think modern trailers, if it's a film that you've enjoyed or a film that you enjoyed watching, even if it wasn't a good film, you can revisit modern trailers to recapture that. Oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, I hated that. I loved that, because they reveal so many things. It's like you're getting a film summary rather than a film preview. And I still find that kind of weird. I was starting to think it was just the Disney brand, Lucasfilm, Marvel, that were doing that a lot. But hey, this is Warner Brothers Discovery, and it's the same kind of thing. So yeah, it's I don't know. There were so many random things in the trailer that to me didn't feel like they belonged. But I'm not the lore master on Krypton and all its inhabitants, but I'm familiar with some of the things that we see. I guess my favorite part of the trailer was unusual for me, and that was the last second save slow mo with the camera panning around Superman,
Yeah.
because that was very throwback. It reminded me of the best parts of the DCEU when you saw that used in moderation in Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, with Gal Gadot, like, in kind of slow motion, but still elegantly deflecting World War One bullet fire with her sword and shield. Or the couple of times where Zack Snyder didn't do it too overboard in some of his DCEU films. And as a throwback for me, it reminded me of the opening credits to Smallville, which I know from purists is a very scandalous and heretical adaptation of Superman, but I've always liked it. And the moment where Tom Welling saves the kid and then there's an explosion behind him is like one of the big visuals of the early seasons of Smallville's opening credits. And that moment in this Superman trailer reminded me a lot of that. So some good nostalgia, but what's your take, Dave? Oh,
Get ready. I am glad you reminded me of that moment because I did enjoy that moment. I was about to come up here and say the only moment I enjoyed was the introduction of crypto. Okay. Um and yes, I am what some would refer to as a Superman purist. But I did enjoy Smallville. Smallville I thought was a really nice reimagining. Okay. And we can do that. We can reimagine, we can have different genres. Comic book wise, I enjoy like Kingdom Come. Okay, there's a reimagining. The Arrowverse tried to put some of that into its flavor of Superman. even like throwing back and bringing putting Brendan Routh in kind of that role is like, oh, be very meta and put somebody who's in your universe but not as Superman in your universe. Okay, I got that. And let me start with, I like Gunn. Okay, I love Guardians. Guardians, the whole trilogy, I thought was amazing. I enjoyed it. We don't have to, and this is big picture everything, be a one-trick pony and do what we did successfully with one franchise or one movie or one show over and over and over again. Okay? J.J. Abrams, you can do a movie without lens flare. Okay? You can. Gunn, do we have to pop in a modern soundtrack for everything? Okay? Where is my John Williams? And you should be absolutely shot dead for attempting to recreate the original, lettering, the graphics and the font in a modern way to promote your movie. Especially when your movie has absolutely zero levels of anything from the classics. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, yeah, okay, great. I understand. I understand completely that we need to, and everyone needs to make money. The directors, the actors, the people, bring these characters to life to a new generation. Okay, yes, we have to make Superman a millennial with goofy big hair. Okay, but do we have to do this in such a way that completely alienates people who have been fans since the original? Is there not a way that you can do both? I don't know. I just so many parts of the trailer is it's I don't know. There's so many places to start.
What made you feel alienated by
Okay. Well, the fact that they're attempting to keep Superman a reporter at the Daily Planet, okay? But they're hipping him up, right? They're making him much younger and hipper, but not hip in his disguise. And it does not appear that they've addressed, you've made him this new generation and he's still a reporter at the Daily Planet, a metropolitan newspaper that meets in a physical office and like has a bullpen. And does that exist anymore?
Yeah, that exists. Plenty of the big papers still have that.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's in the same way that it is. A good friend of mine works for, granted, it's a major paper, major metropolitan in my smaller state of North Carolina, but they've been completely and totally virtual, everybody just turning in their own assignments for 15 years. It feels like we're trying to make things younger here and not. It feels like another Alien, and I hope to God this is just the trailer. I hope is they've taken a lot of the uniqueness, the spunkiness of the power of Lois Lane, and they've just made her let's look up at Superman. My hero is, that's not Lois Lane. You know, the trailer, at least, like I said, I will go see this movie. I have to go see this movie, but the trailer has done Lois a disservice. Again, I've said this from the beginning. I don't like the casting because you've gone out and you found somebody that's like Henry Cavill light because you wanted to find him a, a younger audience. But Cavill, I thought, was doing a really nice job. I like the classic bit of Superman should look like a superhuman man. Okay,
Yeah.
that is the kind of deal of it, and the irony of it is the fact that he puts on a pair of glasses and nobody knows. Okay, this dude, I buy. Nobody gets that he's Superman because no. Even the opening shot of him laying in the snow, spoilers if you haven't seen the trailer, but if you haven't, go watch it. The costume is ill-fitting. You know, he's just kind of laying there sideways and it looks like lumpy and bumpy and wrinkly, baggy on the man. I just, I don't know. And I mean, it's not that you can't cast anybody you want to do this, but if you've been cast as Superman, go do the work. I mean, there's the absolutely okay. Here I am bringing it back to Star Wars. Minute is when Christopher Reeve was cast as Superman. You know, he didn't have a CGI or a big padded suit to help him. What did he do? He went out and sought out a top level bodybuilder, David Prowse, Darth Vader, to help him bulk up and fill out that suit and actually appear that he could be this large superhuman person.
Awesome. I actually didn't know that. I didn't know it was David Prowse himself.
Absolutely. Is he started just a giant bodybuilding routine because Chris Reeve was in ordinary average shape. He was a good actor. He was, you know, this was the original movie was before the 80s. It's before Schwarzeneggers and Stallones and Van Dammes and everybody that's bulky and built and ripped. He was, you know, your 70s dude, but he's like, I'm playing Superman. And in like a regular wool costume, thin, no layer, whatever. Nope. I'm gonna lift. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna do the work.
Yeah, he does look like a very slight Superman.
He does.
Very, and I don't even want to say slender. He actually looks quite petite in some of the shots because I'd say Brandon Routh was a kind of slender, athletic Superman, but
He is.
I
But
thought
Brandon Routh is tall.
he fitted the part. Yeah,
Yeah.
he had the kind of frame, and even if you don't have the height that you might want for the actor to play the original character, you can. I mean, look at what Lord of the Rings did in making different sizes so easy and apparent, just with some intelligent kind of stage management
Well,
and
it's the
producing.
season. You can make, you know, Bob Newhart look like an elf next to Will Ferrell just with camera angles, man.
Exactly, it's nothing cutting edge at all, which makes this feel a bit weird. I think my impression from what you're saying is this trailer left you cold. It didn't.
Really did.
It left you in the ice where Clark was at the beginning, but with no Crypto to come along and give you the warm, fuzzy feelings.
Yeah, and I mean, even your smaller Superman, Tyler Hoechlin from Superman and Lois they've shot it or they've cast around him to make him look like a bigger guy, or he conveys a bigger presence. You know, I think he's probably the smallest of the Supermen, but still he's conveyed more than so far we've seen our new large screen Superman do.
Right.
And like I said, is I don't care about the silly, because James Gunn's known for adding a little bit of silly, and maybe Crypto for some people makes it a little less serious. It harkens back to the 60s and 70s Superman, where there were, at least they didn't bring in the super horse to like drag him back, right? Or it could have been the super kitty. Well, I can't even remember what the name of Supergirl had a cat that was like essentially like a little cat with a cape, just like Crypto. But
You will go to the Dagobah system. Arf, arf.
Yeah.
It was. He's laying there beat up in the snow. I mean, but it's just like and that may be part of the problem that I'm having too, is I don't know that I wanted my very first seconds looks of my new Superman to be him had the crap beat out of him and laying there in a baggy suit in the snow.
Yeah, it's a very weird choice.
Yeah.
It's
like they want a mystery. I guess they want you to think, oh, look, how could he have got there? This is Superman, and he's beaten down and defeated, and I'm looking forlorn, and only a cute dog is his company.
I think if that was Henry Cavill, I'd have cared. If that was a Superman that I already knew and cared about, that's something. But it's someone who's brand new to the deal. I think that's part of the problem in how I feel about this. I mean, would it think about it and wrap around, if that was your first view of Mark Hamill from A New Hope, is beaten up by the Tusken Raiders and laying bloody in the sand, and then R2 beep bop boops up next to it. Do we care? I don't know.
We have people in the chat.
Hello, people in the chats. What do we got in the chats?
Oh,
Bruce is gonna. Ooh, good morning, Bruce. How are you doing?
Morning, Bruce. I see it.
Best superhero trailers ever.
I would give that still to the teaser trailer for The Dark Knight. That was a great trailer. It was a riff on the Batman '89 trailer, shot for shot recreation of the Batman '89 trailer, but it was a great trailer.
Yeah, I mean, and some kind of homages and things in that kind of thing, I see and I get. This one.
Well, it's like when I went to see Gladiator 2, and it's like within the first scene of, even in the trailer, seeing Paul Mescal, it's like, no, sorry, you don't have what Russell Crowe had. It's and it didn't convey that.
Yeah.
And I felt the same ever since they announced this guy as Superman going back years ago. I'd watch, look at pictures of him, see the trailer. It's like, I'm not really feeling it. Like with Cavill, when they aired the first trailer for Man of Steel, it's like, I felt it immediately. It's like, yeah, that's Superman.
Yeah.
This guy, and David Cornsweet might be a good actor, and it still might be a good movie, but it's like, did I really feel that he had that? No. A few days ago, I watched Superman Returns for the first time, and I thought, well, Brandon Routh was decently cast. Some of it felt like cosplay a bit. Didn't exactly feel it, but it was still good performance, good movie. But
the Ralph movie, I thought, was odd in that it seemed futuristic and retro at the same time. They didn't pick a particular genre and go with it. They were.
Yeah, some of it was a bit goofy, like the way they start the Lex Luthor storyline in that movie. I'm like, wait, what's going on? And it's like they're trying to make it an unofficial sequel to the original movie, because Luthor basically has another version of the same plan from the first one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, Superman might have a son. Luthor discovers that. Oh, but he's not going to address that. He's just going to drop it. Oh, okay. And I'm watching this, and it's like, it did a very good job at capturing the hopeful, optimistic aspect of Superman, which the Zack Snyder stuff did not, but they kept reusing the trick of Superman lifting heavy things so many times that when you finally see him lifting the kryptonite at the end of the movie, it's like, Yeah. It's like you could use that. But I didn't have a problem. A lot of people complain about the length of that movie and the pacing. I didn't have a problem with it. That was priced perfectly well.
Mhm.
But yeah. Oh, we got more comments.
Oh, we do, definitely, for sure. Bruce is sitting there talking about, we've seen so many iterations of the hero, it's hard to see a new person. And I
Mhm.
mean, yes and no. Bruce is, I mean, at least from my perspective, okay, is I am very much a Christopher Reeve Superman fan. That Christopher Reeve is my Superman, but I have purposely gone to, and I go to cons and I meet a lot of the other Supermen. I met Brandon Routh, and who was an absolute joy. I liked his performance, even though that movie was kind of panned. Even as a somewhat purist, I enjoy Smallville. I like Welling, even though Welling is such a non-Superman dude in person. Like he's always in photo ops. It's backward hat Welling. It's like, hey man, I'm cool. Welling is just he is a thing. And Tyler Hoechlin and they all
Dean
have
Cain.
in some way.
Dean Cain, yeah, Dean Cain. Don't forget.
Okay, yes, but Dean Cain lives as Dean Cain from Lois and Clark. Okay, he's just it's like yes, that's his deal. Um, but what Jeff is hitting on too is like you got to be a Superman. Is Cavill was much more the character, and we talked about a little bit earlier. The suit seems ill-fitting, and I think from the trailer and the look of it is they changed the suit a couple of times during this um movie, and hopefully that has reason. They're doing some of the things from comics that it looks
Well,
like the world is turning on Superman.
to
I,
your point about making it feel not as futuristic and very retro, they went with the original name of LexCorp was Luthor Corp in the comics when it first started. Which it's like, okay, so they're trying to harken back to that beginning, early feeling of.
or somebody read one comic and just put it in there and doesn't know the difference in that. There's a lot of
Well, even the premise for the movie saying it's about Clark trying to, reconcile how he lives as a man from Earth and with his heritage as Krypton. I'm like, I feel that's like the premise of almost every Superman movie. It's like, are we going to move past this? But I don't know. Maybe it'll be fine. I don't know.
well, and there are other things that irked me, little stylistic choices that I don't know if we're trying to make it seem modern, retro, whatever. The Kent farmhouse. I mean, dude, it looked like somebody's suburban house that they threw a couple of cows in the front yard. It just and casting choices again. I mentioned like apparently the lowest casting choice because really all we see from her.
Yeah, who's playing Kent in the who's playing
Pa
the dad?
Kent,
Pa Kent.
random. I mean,
I couldn't recognize who that was.
I didn't either. But I'm just like, you go from
Kevin Costner is great.
You go from Kevin Costner, and before Kevin Costner, we talk Smallville, and it's John Schneider.
Mhm.
You go from people who have some meaning, and you feel this father figure,
Yeah.
to generic dude with like balding, sitting on a stoop, going. I'm just like, this is not the impressions of a man who made this alien who has no earth values, who made this man to want to save humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm agreeing with you, Mike. Is Crypto was the part of the trailer that I could deal with. Is that's something new to bring to this, that and I think the Super Pets animated movie did well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
It did some good
the
numbers.
Crypto thing kind of was a bit off-putting to me because it felt like just a regular dog that just shows up and he's like, "Here at the Cape, drag me." It's like, yeah, okay, but
Well, I didn't like that part because I'm like, no, Crypto is like Lassie on steroids. Is Crypto would have figured out to drag the damn cape. You didn't have to like beat us over the head with the moment of Superman handing it to him. It's like, no, Crypto to figured that out. He had you covered. He showed up. But it's a lot of this just seems like we're going to beat you over the head with the point. Is here. Oh, here. Oh, this is a more modern version. We're going to use the modern music. Oh, he's a reporter. We got to put you in the reporter and the bullpen. Is like, if you were going to make him a reporter today and you're modernizing this, is like what the Superman and the challenges of working from home and your relationship with Lois that way or something. Is like, you're going to get it to be modern, make it freaking modern.
Yeah. He learns he has to use 3 monitors for work nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's got to lift his laptop up. Yeah, he's got to buy a laptop stand. He needs, good lighting behind. He hates that Teams ringing meeting sound.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, you're sitting there flying over, the disaster zone, and you're checking in, on your Teams meeting on your iWatch or Apple Watch or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
God,
swiping.
Something.
He doesn't want those notifications. He's leaving Kansas in half a second.
Like,
doesn't have time. Yeah, I will say that, as with all disappointments in film, the second time you see it, it's a lot better, even for the trailer. That's how I felt.
I've watched it more than once. I've watched it more than twice. I've showed it to other people who are, and because I honestly, in truth, wanted to know, is it me? Am I Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino sitting on the porch? Get off my lawn! Have I become that? And I showed it to a number of other people who were also like, "What the hell? Where did they find this dude?"
Yeah. I think the casting for the prime casting doesn't sit well with many people, and I don't know. Do you?
I think the secondary casting. Oh, and don't even get me damn started on how Nathan Fillion looks at as Guy Gardner.
I was going to ask you about that specifically. Tell me that what's going on there.
Could we spend more than $1.95 on a bowl cut wig? I know Guy Gardner is supposed to look stupid because Guy Gardner is supposed to be stupid, but he looked like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber.
He did.
Yes.
Really
asked Jeff Daniels and that had been better. Why? Please don't waste Nathan Fillion and make him have to do, act like Ryan Reynolds does about Green Lantern for the rest of his life.
Well, all of those other superhero characters like Hawk Girl and those guys, they're all wearing the same outfit. So it's like there's some type of, I don't know, superhero team, probably not in the movie very long. Because it's like I've been waiting a long time for this. Because by the time this comes out, it'll be 12 years after Man of Steel. It's like that long since a standalone Superman movie. I don't really want to see a bunch of other heroes in this movie.
Yeah, it doesn't need them. Where's the focus on
But
Superman?
I think, again, Gunn is doing what Gunn has a formula for. It's the superhero team up, right? We make Guardians. That's what worked for me. I added a hip soundtrack to it. I made snarky banner between them. Movie works. What else did Gunn do? Suicide
Squad. Yeah, the Suicide Squad from 2022.
I mean, same kind of thing. Let's make a.
Man, his was good. His was better than the other Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that wasn't hard. Come on.
Yeah, no, but that was still a good movie with Starro in that story. That was good.
We can argue points on that, though, Kat. It's like we can argue points on that. It's like better, yes.
But that's like a classic Suicide Squad type story, going to another country and knocking it over and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's just like, but again, we do it with crude humor and snarkiness and not.
Well, you know what? I think he might, because he's writing this himself, isn't he? Or does
I
he have a
believe
team?
so. I
Yeah.
believe this is written, directed, whatever.
So I think that the dialogue between Peter Quill and Gamora in the Guardians films, when they're kind of flirty and will they, won't they, wasn't that bad. And I can imagine that if the actors commit to the script, that you might have some good back and forth between Clark and Lois. The Lois Lane actress they have, Rachel Brosnahan, is I think one of the best actors in modern TV. She's the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and she's a central character to that show. Anyone who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend. It's on Prime Video. It's a Prime original, but it has an incredible cast, and it's about a late 1950s housewife in New York who goes through a divorce and wants to become a stand-up comedian. The premise is incredible, and she carries the show with her co-star just through 4 or 5 amazing seasons. And it's her quips, it's her wit, it's the glances, the sarcasm, the irony, the change of tone. She manages it all the kind of different levels you need in a performance, acting wise, even with some seriousness, some tragedy, some grief, some difficult obstacles in life, and she nails it. So if she has even a half decent script and some screen time beyond, look, it's Clark. Oh, Clark, I
Exactly.
love you. Well, yeah, I do understand what you meant from the trailer.
She's done dirty in the trailer. I hope it's better. And you're coming.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do better with the Loises that you've had, right? Margot Kidder is just like, okay, I larger than life. I'm this little bitty person compared to Christopher Reeve, but I'm going to smack you around if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And even when she knows he's Superman, like she just takes on Clark all day, but
Yeah,
she takes on Superman. She's a little bit
yeah,
more gaga in the beginning about him, but
yeah, definitely. She's a benchmark, I think, but that's what I think this actress could do if she's given enough or even a chance once or twice in the film. And it does. I take what Kat and you were saying. It's already too crowded as a trailer. There are too many other characters happening, things going on that are
yeah.
big and spectacular and action sequence looking. And I'm against the idea of these films having to be 2.5 to 3 hours as a default. I have a feeling this will be that case.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the Batman, which was essentially a 3-hour film. That one worked with its pacing and its tone, but that's what Matt Reeves does very well.
Again, I'll argue that on you because I've
Yeah.
never made it completely through that. As big of a Batman fan as I am, I cannot make it through that movie.
How many times have you tried? 5, 6 time lucky.
Maybe.
Or maybe it'll be 7 for you.
But
yeah, that film it can feel like a slog, but the rewards are worth
I'm
it.
not against that universe and what they've done with it. I think that movie and Pattinson, because the universe, the Penguin, I love.
Mhm.
Okay, and it has kind of a little bit of that slow tone at the beginning to start off with that series.
Right.
But because you're like, what is it? Why are we getting a show about just what the Penguin does? And there's no superhero? It's the Penguin. But yeah, the Batman just again, it's one of those things where we are reinventing the character for a new generation. Okay, we've got to make emo, whiny Batman, Bruce Wayne, great, fine, okay. But can we not alienate people who have seen what's coming? Can we not alienate the comic book fans? Maybe that's my problem is
Well, that was a good arc though for Batman in that movie, because that's his whole arc. Because there's a whole thing from the Long Halloween comic where Gordon is kind of frustrated with Batman because he's like, you're more about vengeance and not really much of a detective. And like everybody knows from the animated series, he's like, I am vengeance. And it's like, well, if you think about that, it's like, well, vengeance means it's like he's acting out this fantasy of, revenge, which is why they decided to change it and say that his parents' murder was never solved. But I like that his arc in the you could tell that when the Part 2 movie comes along, he's going to be regular Bruce Wayne, because that's his arc in the first movie. Is learning to be that, oh, I can't do this vengeance thing. I need to be more involved with the city, because the mayor keeps pestering him about that, saying, hey, your family is all about philanthropy. As far as I can tell, you're not really doing anything. And she's trying to get on his good side, and you see how he's going to, it's all this transformative arc to being a better person.
Well, I mean, the Batman, when it came out, was billed very much like, okay, we're going to look at the Batman Year 2 comic. Okay, because
not really the comic so much as they're just saying it's his second year.
Well, when it was put out there, that was the impression given, I think, to a lot of people, other people that I've talked to, not just me. And we were like, oh yeah, Year 2, okay, great, because they tried and they did some stuff with Year 1, and what happened? They threw some Year 1 stuff into some of the other films with Catwoman when she appears, because she plays a big part in Year 1. Year 2, especially, you got the really mechanical looking bat symbol on Pattinson, and that's supposed to be made up from pieces or parts of the gun that killed his parents and things, and it's like, y'all did.
That was a rumor that came about, but I don't think that was never confirmed in the movie itself.
Right. That's what I'm saying, is that was a chunk of your Year 2, because Year 2, issue 2 or 3, I haven't read those comics in a while, is Batman sitting there he's using a gun. It's like, that's your shock and awe from that series, is it's Batman just standing there upright, the classic Batman pose, but he's got a 45 in his hand, and you're just like, what? Here's things, but we're all right. Let's kind of bring it back. Let's unify the force again here. We've spent a lot of time. We're talking about the Batman. We're talking about the Superman trailer.
Oh, and they're doing
all of these things are things that are nostalgic for us. We're looking back at the original Superman movies, comparing it to this trailer. We're looking at old school Batman. Batman 89 is my Batman. I mean, Michael Keaton is my guy. And and that's kind of mid Batman when you think of it. That's not old school Batman. And technically, I guess probably Christopher Reeve is mid Superman as well, because you've got the serials from the 30s, and you've got the 30s,
the Adventures of Superman with George Reeves,
and you've got George Reeves as well. So Keaton is, a reimagining for okay, now this is what I want to know, and I'm gonna stop my segue. Do people that were George Reeves fans feel the way I feel about this about Christopher Reeve? Do people that were Adam West fans
they might,
about Michael Keaton?
They might, because I've watched a lot of YouTube videos about the mystery of what happened to George Reeves, and a lot of them are made by people who grew up watching that show as kids, and they distinctly remember how it felt to hear that Superman allegedly killed himself, and how that was really striking, and that even decades later they were still really put off by that. I think that was a significant childhood memory, showing that still was a very significant Superman for them. But that, Christopher Reeve came along and still embodied that idea, even though I think Christopher Reeve is so much more convincing as Superman than George Reeves was.
Well,
not because of the effects or anything, just
the level of convincing after he became paralyzed and fought. And
that documentary is now available to stream on Max, by the way. The Christopher Reeve Superman documentary. Great movie.
It's on Max. Okay, I gotta watch that.
I'm looking forward to that.
But is he completely embodied to the end?
Yeah.
It might have been more of a real world kind of Batman story, really. It's like, okay,
also the
technology and live in my wheelchair that I can move around and become a philanthropist. It might have
And
been
also, the Christopher Reeve Superman was a much bigger scale story than anything they did on the event. Like the Adventures of Superman was very much like the original Batman serials from the 40s, where they're just fighting, bank robbers and little goons like that. It wasn't really, like the Adam West series. They always have him go after a supervillain or something. It was very formulaic, where at the halfway point, Batman and Robin are going to get captured. How are they going to escape? Just like the Star Wars cliffhanger, Flash Gordon, and then you come back next week and they get out in 2 seconds, and then you have the rest of the episode.
Well, that's how the comics started as well. There wasn't, super villains weren't introduced until, 10, 20 episodes in or issues in.
Yeah, like in Batman, the first supervillains were a one-off. That was Dr. Death, but then the first recurring villain that's still used today was Hugo Strange in Batman.
Yeah, and that just it was far more of that kind of detective-y thing. But like you said, I was in the middle of a segue. We're talking about nostalgia and how we feel about these characters. And man, the nostalgia of the Skeleton Crew, right, is that I think is really keeping what's working. We're talking about making it, and you're starting to see now in episodes 3 and 4, they're really making this serialized. The pacing is really good. They're ending on a good cliffhanger for us. Okay. All right, go Ted.
All right, so the third episode was fantastic. It was like everything I wanted this show to be. I was right. Jude Law's going to carry the show on his back, but I was fine with that because that third episode was amazing. Like, this is what a fun, swashbuckling Star Wars type adventure is. I liked how they went with the whole mystery of the navigational charts and all that, and you could see how their friend is kind of betraying them, and I like that Jude Law's smart enough to see what's going on and is trying to speed it up. I love that back and forth between them, and how the kids think he's a Jedi, and he kind of admits that he's not, and he's just trying to get his way home. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of neat. And then the fourth episode happened, and it's like, okay, I think it's neat that they found another hidden planet and that it has the same environment and same architecture and exact same layout as their home, and like that's actually pretty interesting. But again, it's one of those 30-minute episodes where, because it's so short, they can't really dive into the conflict between the two sides. Made no sense whatsoever that once the kids are like, we can't be soldiers, we're kids. It's like, okay, so once the battalion leader hears that, why does he still put them in charge of leading a battle anyway? It's like, that didn't make any sense to me. And the fact that it ends on, it kind of like The Acolyte. It felt like the episode ended because the camera ran out of film. It's like, yeah, it ends on a little joke, but it's like, okay, so clearly they're going to pick up where they left off next week, but did it? Because again, we only have 8 episodes. We're already halfway through the show. You only just started to get that really swashbuckling feeling of the first 2 episodes were well paced and charted and stuff like that, and we're just starting to take off. And now we're going to do that thing again. We have to stop after barely 30 minutes, and again, I think if they let that be like a longer episode, let you dive into that conflict more that was going on there, maybe have some more hints to it, it would have been more fun. And how the minute John Elwood gets cornered, he's like, I give up. And it's like, really? It's like, it just didn't, I didn't really buy it. And why is he letting the kids boss him around? Because like, yeah, he's a pirate, he's got the Force, he's kind of smart. It's like, maybe you could do a better job at tricking these kids rather than being, second fiddle to these people. But I do like the idea that the treasure is buried, that whoever the pirate leader was, buried the treasure on their home planet. That was good. But again, it's like like, okay, the pacing's going well, and now we're doing this thing again where we got to stop after 30 minutes. It's like, no, please don't do this for the rest of the series.
I thought that was we're taking little bits of building your character, is the Jod giving up, and then I wish we'd seen on screen. You're right. Is it could have been longer if we had seen his interaction further than the I give up. But the I give up, I thought, was leading to his character. He's going to turn into, one of the ones who's going to negotiate and trick and do it with trickery instead of just overt brute force.
Well, he kind of got suckered into the same thing, because when they see him walking out of the fog, he kind of looks nervous, like he probably thinks he's walking into another battle situation as well. And it's like, oh, so that, and it could have been a more interesting conflict, but again, they didn't really get to spend much time on it because they were, in a rush to end the episode.
And but I liked very much so the new planet, and after we'd seen in the previous episodes, The suspense for me and where they ended it was they didn't tell us and figure out, at least I think I figured out something that they're going to figure out, and they ended the episode before that happened, right?
That's another thing. It's like we have the same thing with the Acolyte, where the fans are ahead of the writers in figuring these things out. In the Acolyte's case, it was Khmer. Everybody knew Khmer was going to be the stranger, and everybody correctly guessed that he was going to be Vanestra's apprentice. Spoilers. Before the finale came along, and when they aired the finale, it was presented like this huge shock. It's like, yeah, we already know that. Why are you only spooling it out now? So I can kind of see, like you mentioned, I'm not going to spoil it for people who may haven't figured it out yet. I can see where they're kind of going with Skeleton Crew, but we'll see. But again, it just felt like okay, we were on a roll here, and now we have to stop after 30 minutes to do.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I didn't get that feeling. I didn't. I enjoyed that we're telling us more. This was our Neil episode, and I guess we'll have an episode that kind of features each of the
I
kids.
mean, Neil's kind of cute. I don't get the whole Neil Nation thing. It's like he's not that compelling of a character yet. I mean, he's kind of nice, but the other kids too aren't really,
Well,
like they need to be injected with more personality and more charisma.
He's the cute, fluffy character that you can make a plush out of that everybody's going to die for. That's what it is. He's the new.
He'll be a Funko Pop.
He already
of all sizes. Oh, he already is. Yeah. He'll be a keyring.
Got a Black Series.
Yeah, multiple Black Series. Yeah. No, he's been designed very well, and I like the 4 kids that we have. I think they're pretty good. None of them come across as particularly precocious or irritating like that.
They're the Goonies dumbed down.
That's the thing. That's what I don't like about it. I don't like the kids being dumbed down. Like a lot of kids,
they are diluted.
Dave is an elementary school teacher. What kids are actually like these days?
Yeah.
Like the first character kind of was fun at first, but now she's kind of getting on my nerves a bit. It's like, it's like I said, we need another kid in this ensemble.
Well, that's my okay.
Yeah, 4 is not enough.
4. I thought we were going to get the kid, the resistance kid leader. I thought was going to join the crew, and I was like, "Damn it, that's yes."
Yeah.
Season 2.
That's why I was saying Jude Law is going to carry this show on his back. But then after what he did in the 4th episode, the way it's kind of like, okay. Because I liked that he was kind of savvy and leading these kids along. And I really like the idea that he says, hey, I'm just trying to get home like you, which is technically true, sort of, like depending on how you look at it. But then in the 4th episode, he's back to kind of simping for the kids. And it's like, dude, you're supposed to be you're like a pirate. You're cunning. You manipulate people to your ends. Like, what are you doing letting these kids boss you around like this?
I am starting to get the wonder of, like you said, it's only 8 episodes.
Right.
Was this initially, because this was shot and all done before the writer's strike, right? They've been sitting on this for
because they announced this in April 2022 and started filming later that year.
And they've been sitting on this one for a while. Was this shot in such a way that they had planned for season 2? That there was already this is what was going to happen.
Well, I know they finished filming. They finished filming right before the writer's strike started. But I don't recall if they ever had any ideas of a second season.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm wondering is, did we have an idea for that it was going to be a second season, and that idea would now be problematic because, again, we've shot with children who it's really difficult to conceal the fact that by the time you would start shooting a season 2, they would be 3 or 4 years older.
They did ask them about that, how they would address that if it came to that. And they're like, oh, well, we have a way to do it because they didn't want to spoil whether or not they were going to do another season.
So, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, and it's what we're wondering about Ahsoka season 2 as well is, well, did Ahsoka have to change and we get some of these gaps and weirdnesses because did we have to save some of the footage of Baylan Skull because we can't make new footage with Baylan Skull? is, did we have to change some of those things, and are we having to alter a potential season 2?
Well, I would
Because
take it because the fact that Ahsoka and Sabine are stuck on that planet with Baylan Skoll and Hati, I'd think that's probably where they wanted that story to end, and I would assume they had plans for season 2 or the crossover movie continuing that overarching storyline with Baylan Skoll. I don't think they have a ton of other scenes with him though.
I don't know.
And now it begs the question: when they do this crossover movie, what exactly are they crossing over with? Because it's like, you know, you already said like there's basically Mando and I guess Ahsoka. Like that's about it. I mean, because you don't have.
I
They
think
were
they're
supposed to have
probably
Rangers of the New
considering
Republic in the
they're probably
storyline.
Yeah.
considering Boba Fett in there. You know, is Boba Fett is a separate thing. You can bring Boba Fett and Ming Na brain character name at this point. Fennec Shand. So you can bring Boba Fett, Fennec Shand in there. You can bring back again if you consider Din Djarin separately in a separate place from Bo-Katan. So you bring Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians. You bring in. There's talk and wonder that could this skeleton crew be a part of that? It's like, I don't know. You know, is there something in the treasure on that could cross over into that? Now that would, if that was done right, that whatever the level of treasure is that's on At-Aten is either Thrawn becomes interested in, or it is the means in which the Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and all of them can use to defeat, and Ahsoka and Ezra can use to defeat Thrawn in the big crossover movie. That potentially sounds cool. I have no faith in that happening.
I mean, it could work. I think of all the characters so far that could cross over, it seems like Jude Law's character would kind of fit best. And not just because of the age thing, but because of the idea of having this kind of rogue, scandalous, kind of hustling con man pirate who has, a strong enough connection to the Force to actually use it. That would be an interesting addition to Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, and Ahsoka. But what Kat's saying is true. They are really missing that kind of vacuum that Rangers of the New Republic would have filled in giving us some ancillary stories and some supporting characters that could have had their own little main missions during a mini season.
Was pissed in episode 3 that the fighter pilot wasn't Paulie.
Yeah, I had thought we might see him there. It wouldn't have taken anyone out of it. I think it would have fitted nicely, but it's okay. I think hopefully we see more of him in these crossover projects that we're looking forward to. I think we've discussed this before, but I think we're all in agreement. He could carry a mini series himself.
He could carry a mini series, and then you could use some of the other people you've seen as ancillary characters. You could use the Brendan Wayne X-Wing fighter guy. You could use Zeb. Zeb was wearing an X-Wing uniform in the bar. You have the little tongue-in-cheek poke your fun at having your Deborah Chow and your Dave Filoni, Trapper Wolf character.
The directors
kind of
get them in the cockpits again. Having Zeb in live action is probably challenging. I think he looked okay when we saw him on screen. But having him in a cockpit's much easier in terms of animation and mocap, because you're just in a seat looking at a screen, turn the lights on around you, and you're good to go. And we've seen how well that kind of perspective can work on film in the MCU with Iron Man. Tony Stark, you just see his head in between massive CGI action scenes, and for the most part, they're quite smooth and work pretty well. Sometimes the editing is a bit harsh and takes you out of it a little bit, but the other benchmark that we keep saying they should use is, and it comes back to the cancelled Will She Won't She Patty Jenkins Rogue film, is Top Gun Maverick. We talk about nostalgia and where it's maybe irritating or superfluous or too gratuitous, to smack you on the head with it. But
See, Mike
Top
likes
Gun-
it because it's
No, Mike
there
didn't.
are more than
Good
one.
lord.
There are so many pilots in the galaxy, and I'm like, yeah, but they run into a Skywalker every 5 seconds. Why wouldn't they run into Paulie every 5 seconds? You never know. But and then here is a good point that Mike brings up as well, is that Crimson Jack, alias or God or whatever, hasn't used the last 2 episodes. Hasn't
He hasn't really used it at all. No.
no.
Yeah, just key
Now-
juggling. That's it.
And that could have been a missed opportunity that we didn't see as well. The negotiations to buy the EOPs could have been, you will let me buy the EOPs.
Yeah, I don't get the sense he's that skilled with it, because it's like that would, like you said, that would be the logical thing. And assuming the other side in that conflict are as dim-witted as the leader of the conflict of the kid. Oh yeah, you kids. Oh, your kid. Okay, here you're in charge. Then maybe, but I did find it interesting that Crimson Jack wants to, like, the New Republic was there, and they were probably going to return the kids because the parents are saying, "Oh, we should appeal to the New Republic; they'll help us." And so it's like, but he wanted to run away from them, even though those X-wing pilots probably would have just taken the kid. They probably don't know where they live, but which is, again, that's another mystery the show's still presenting. It's like, what exactly is the nature of the relationship between AT-AT and the New Republic? Because it's like the kids didn't know about the Galactic Civil War. Is that because they're kids and they haven't been taught yet? Like, because the parents know about the New Republic, does that mean they know about the history of how the New Republic came to be? And like they said, let's appeal to the New Republic. So the parents are making it sound like they know about it, and then you could just call them up.
Indoctrination of, oh, you only know what you're told is of the New Republic. It's this thing, but what do they know?
Well, didn't the X-wing pilots know who they were looking for, though? They knew they were looking for the kids, right?
I don't think so.
Or did they were looking for?
I think they were looking for Crimson Jack.
Okay, yeah, they were looking for Jack.
They were looking for
something, whether it was Jude Law as Crimson Jack or is Jude Law. There's another mystery. Is Jude Law impersonating Crimson Jack? The Crimson Jack we know from the Halcyon and from the original Marvel series. Is that one of his aliases? Is he actually Crimson Jack and Jod and Captain Silvo, whatever, one of his aliases? Are there more aliases? Like, who is he? What does he do?
Yeah.
I mean, he could just be this flim-flam man who impersonates everybody with different people, but I don't recall the X-wing pilots knowing anything about the kids. They were there for.
Well, they said that they couldn't fire on the ship because the kids were on board.
Well, they know there are kids, but they do
right.
But they don't know that the kids are important or have treasure or what the deal is with them. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they have the details. Yeah. It's quite vague from their side. I think it's...
But the only one who knows at this point that they are from AT-AT and they're trying to get home would be the Owl.
Right.
So.
And also, I feel that, you cast Jaleel White as one of the pirates. And then you have, the pirate leader, Silvo or whatever. And it's like they haven't really used these characters very much. And we're already halfway through the show.
Well, Silvo is Jude Law.
Or not Silvo, but the other
Brutus.
guy.
Brutus. Or Vane.
Whoever the character's name is.
Vane and then Brutus.
Brutus the wolf.
Yeah, Brutus.
I'm hoping we get more of them. I hope that that's going to come back and that wasn't just a way to introduce Jude Law.
Yeah, it feels like
that. I think was some of the real fun of this is making this a pirate serial.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I like the idea of Jude Law potentially being a bit like Jason Bourne, and he has just a bag and a safety deposit box that has 100 different passports in it with 100 different names from 100 different Republic systems. It would be nice to see that in the Star Wars galaxy. Or, even the kind of feeling this gives me is a little bit of the kind of whimsy and adventure that you have in Capture Me If You Can, actually. Because that's actually something I rewatched recently, and I was thinking, kind of zippy adventure like this, based on like a young con man, making their way around. He's a he fakes being a pilot and manages to escape the authorities. You could fit a story like that in Star Wars so sweetly. And I'm hoping this idea of a pirate serialized adventure, even if at the moment it's Goonies-esque and pitched more for kids, I hope that the tone they use here can
It's more
expand.
for kids and potentially pitched more for people looking for that nostalgia. And I think that brings us to kind of a place that there was a question asked this week, that would a suggestion really made for a new Unifying Force topic is where we are, and I think we can expand it actually, is Star Wars best when it is nostalgic? Is it pitched for? Because I got some, okay, I'll admit and own up to this. My wife is a normie, okay? Dislikes the Star Wars entirely, dislikes really a lot of science fiction. Like her favorite Star Trek is the Abrams, and I'm just like, oh dear God, please, but because they threw Chris Pine in, I know this is my life. His the favorite one is the Abrams.
I'm proud of your choices, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes. And so but when she has seen the trailers for Skeleton Crew, and then she of course asks me about it, because are you guys watching the new, and it's like, it's a Star Wars property, what do you think? I'm doing a show on it in 10 minutes. Yes. It's like, oh well, that looks kind of good. And I'm like, well, it's like Goonies in space. And it's like, oh,
regarding the nostalgia thing, I think they need to get away from that. There's enough material to draw from that you can still tell good, because nostalgia, it's not like you don't set out to make a cult movie. It just kind of happens. It don't set out to do nostalgia bait like they did with Force Awakens. So just tell a good story drawing from elements of the canon, and it will catch on or something. But if the impetus is nostalgia, it's like you can't really, yeah, there's an X-Wing. That doesn't mean people are going to be super nostalgic and respond.
right.
Like, for instance, the second teaser trailer for Force Awakens was designed as nostalgia bait, and it worked because it was a trailer. It was supposed to do. But when you watch the movie, you still want a story that's solid and it's its own thing at the same time.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop you there, and we're not going to talk about that, because I think this is going to be a whole other episode. Is maybe our next episode of the Unifying Force is Star Wars, is its place in nostalgia and in filmmaking in general, because that's what's making the best stuff now that we've talked about. And we'll talk about Top Gun Maverick, and we'll talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife, and we'll talk about so many other things that
how we've been seeing that go on with the James Bond franchise, given that I assume you read that report that came out the other day.
I don't know that I did. Uh-oh.
Wall Street Journal.
I don't read the Wall Street Journal.
Well, it was covered by everybody else after they.
Okay.
Oh God, it was. Oh my God, I can't. I can't. It's like.
Well, it's the thing. So we'll look forward to that on maybe our next episode of the Unifying Force. Is nostalgia where it's at? Is nostalgia out of control? Is nostalgia where it's
and more Skeleton Crew reviews, of course, because we'll have the 5th and 6th episodes out by then.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and say we'll do predictions for the end. We'll do that in the next time too. We'll be 6 episodes in. We'll be in a good place where we can do predictions in the end. All right. So until the next time, people, thank you for watching. We've had a number of people roll in and out on the Instagram. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jeff, for jumping in on the chat. That's why we really kind of enjoy doing this live, to get some feedback and stuff from people. And keep watching the channel for more programming. I think we're all headed to do a year in review show for the VCN as well. Please look for that coming out on New Year's Day. All right. So
definitely.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. May the Force be with you all.